Hey, what's up everyone? I'm just going to be talking about Michael Jordan's documentary a little bit and some of the things that I saw in it, and I'm also going to be talking about my little baby girl who just rolled for the first time and what that tells me about sort of her neurodevelopmental stage, and that she didn't choose it, it just happened, and that kind of ties in with Michael's stuff. So if you think that you find that interesting, you should definitely watch this video. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about Michael Jordan's documentary, The Last Dance, on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, it's a really cool documentary. There's so many things that I take from that, and I sort of pattern against what I already know and challenge what I understand and try and learn from all the documentaries. And he's quite a phenomenal athlete and quite a phenomenal athletic mind. So the difference between him and everyone else on the court is definitely his mind and his programming. So I watched the documentary last night where his father passed away, and he retired and then went to play baseball. And when people started to say, "Oh, he's going to fail," in baseball, and he just turned it on and did really well, although he didn't go on to have a huge career in baseball. The things that jumped out at me were, one, the media, the way the animal and the nature of the media is the narratives, the psychology behind why people watch and read the media. And so they build someone up, and then when they're a certain height, there's they're up on the pedestal, and everyone else is like, "Oh, he's a superstar," and they're in the pit. And at some point they start to resent that unevenness, and then they want to read about something that will bring him down, like he's a shitty guy and everything. So the media is part of that, and then they start making stuff up or stories, or they look for dirt, and then everyone feels better about it, and they're like, the media get their clickbait, click-through. So I just came away from it with the media. That's it. You know, it's the narrative. How do we sell? How do we sell our business? So I was brought up with the media. Like, newspapers were like, "Oh, they're really important. They are." I can't even, like my parents. Like they're like, that is it. That's part of life. That we should respect them and everything, never question. And really now, with the internet and podcasts and everything, people are really starting to question that model of trying to get people to click through, because it's the narratives like fear, or bringing someone down, and that makes people click. It just works on that psychology of the pit and the pendulum. So if you understand that starts to you start to lose any interest in journalists and media. Yeah. So I came away from that with the documentary, and I thought Michael Jordan said it beautifully. And he said, "I just do what I like, what I want to do, and if that doesn't fit your narrative, then I'm not going to live my life because it doesn't fit your narrative." And so I came away with that. I thought that was amazing. And also the thing that definitely struck me was how competitive he was, and his teammates and everyone was really saying that it was to an extreme, that he would be gambling at the back of the bus for lots and lots of money, like huge amounts of money, and some of the other team members who didn't earn as much money were playing for dollars. And he would come down the bus and he would say, "Oh, let me get involved." And they said to him, like, "What are you doing here? We're just playing for dollars." And he goes, "No, I want to beat you and have you in my pocket." And just anything where there was some competition, he was driven towards that and couldn't help himself. It was part of his nature. and that made him the best in the world. So he had the most extreme competitiveness, and therefore he became the best because he wanted to always win, never stop. So he'll still have that unless he's done a lot of work on himself. And that reminded me of when I was at Chelsea, and we were one of the best teams in the world, and we had players there that were international players, and they were some of the they were world-class players. And I remember one player, I liked him. I know now that other people didn't like him. I saw a poll, and one of the a staff member had done who he thought was the best player, and then he said the player he least liked, and it was this person. And so I was like, oh, maybe he did come across that way. And what I understand now, looking back at him, he was just the most competitive person you could ever have. So when I did rehab with him, I just said, like, I bet you can't do that. And he was like a kid. He was like, oh, I'll do that. Or we had this game at Chelsea where there was a bucket. I think we called it, but I just made it up, bucket ball. So I put a bucket down in my rehab gym, down on the floor, and you'd stand on a Bosu ball or something that was wobbly, and then you throw some ball, and if you bounced it off 5 walls, you get 5 points or something. There was loads of things that you could do to make the ball go in the bucket, and so you're training proprioception, bringing some competitiveness. And this player would just be on there constantly. He had to be on the top of the leaderboard. And so I realize now that's probably what got him at such a high level. And so when bringing that back to Michael Jordan, that was how he was. It was sort of innate. That wasn't taught. That maybe came down through his parents' programming or not. It's not 100% sure, but I don't believe you can teach that. That's just how he was. And you see him in the documentary pulling people up to his level. He wanted to win so badly, they had to come up, so he would bully them up there. But it still didn't change. They changed a little bit, but they didn't turn into him. And I thought that was interesting. And that it ties in with my baby this morning. So lies on her back, just lies on her back, and just yesterday or the day before started to do a tiny little turn. Say yesterday, and today she went onto her side. I went, wow, she's starting to want to turn, and then suddenly, bang, she turned. Very, very, on the same day, really, she started to try. So, I'm all proud. Wow, she's going to be amazing, so I had to work on that. So what I'm saying is, it's not like, oh, she's thinking, oh, I want to turn today. It's part of her. It's her neurodevelopmental stages. She's going to start turning, and she's going to start moving her head from side to side. Her arms are going to crawl. There's the point here where once you press it too long, the head starts to go, and that starts to make the arms go, and then she'll crawl. Then she'll go into reaching up, which is like a monkey type stage, and then she'll go mammalian on hands and knees, and then she will stand, squat, lunge, and walk. So that's just part of it. So I kind of and so that brings me on to when I'm working with a client who's extremely driven. Clients come to me when they're extremely driven, but they're unhappy. And that's what happens, is that drive, they can't quench it. So, when I'm this, when I'm doing that, when I have $1 billion, or when I live there and I have 5 homes, then I'll be happy. So they get to that point, they're not. So it's just this constant it's a need to achieve. And so they come to me, and what I found, I had a client yesterday he's extremely driven and optimizing every aspect of his life. And so what we've done is he was fearful of not achieving his potential. He was fearful to the point of phobia of wasting his life and not succeeding. Yeah, so that is almost, let's almost put like that stuff outside of him. And what we needed to do was, he was jammed up on wasting his life and all the opposites. So in the Taoist principles, there's always an opposite. Yeah, so energetically he was jammed up here, he wanted to go there. So what we've been doing is we've been working on finding why, and clearing the reasons why he's so desperate to do that. Because the more desperate you are and the weaker you are to something, the more you're going to pull that experience in to resolve it yourself, which is not good. Like, you're going to, well, not good, you're just going to pull in things that are extremely challenging and going to make you feel helpless, etc., etc. So what we did, we made him more neutral, and we've been working on it for a year. And so when he talks about what he wants to achieve, he's much more calm about it. And there's it's interesting, we talk about it being a game. So he meditates, so now he's aware of his no mind state. So he sits and he sees these thoughts come up, boom boom, and he's not caught by them. He's detached, he can see them. So he does that daily. So what we called that was his no mind. I didn't want to call it too much, but he's aware that he's mindless, he's totally in the flow state, present, and that's all he needs. He's whole. So he's aware of that. He goes to that daily, and then he has this mind, and he calls it his game. We've come up. We use the terminology of the game, and in the game, you can play whatever game you want. You can be, if you want to lift 5 times your body weight in deadlift, you can play that game. If you want to run multiple business, you can play that game. If you want to do this and that, but know that that's just a game, and that's not where you're going to find happiness. Happiness is within, when you're present and you're calm and you're mindless, because the mind is always it limits us. It's just always trying to do more, and if you're caught in your mind, you're not going to be happy. So this guy's really changed, and we call it the game. Yeah. So with Michael Jordan, he was completely caught in his game, and he was so driven and everything. But in doing that, he may have, at some point, I don't know him, he hasn't gone into that, but he might have started to question that and said, why am I so driven? Why can't I just chill out and do nothing? Why am I gambling? What's it giving me? And so he starts to be able to observe himself and his behaviors, and that's priceless. So that's almost, so when you're caught in the game completely, you're unenlightened. And then when you become aware that that's not it, then you're not unenlightened anymore. That kind of brings up the quote. Well, I'll just I kind of butcher it a little bit, but there are no masters, says the master. So there are no masters, but you have to be a master to know that. Yeah, so that's kind of a bit of the Tao, the Tao Te Ching. I think that there's some similar stuff in that. Is my train of thought's gone when you go neutral like that. It's like there's nothing more to say. So definitely check out the Michael Jordan documentary if you're interested in that sort of performance psychology. He comes across as very intelligent, and I think he's really cool, and what a player. So for myself, that separation from the game has been a process, and I meditate in the morning for about an hour, and that's where I just observe my mind, and I'm working on an upgrade of that method, but that's something I have to experience. I'm testing some stuff at the moment. So take some time to observe your behavior and start to get a little distance between you and your behavior, and start to see it, and that sheds light into darkness. Yeah, you start to see the things you don't know about yourself in your shadow, but that's a whole nother talk. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the Michael Jordan doc. If you have any, if you've seen or anything, if you have any thoughts or questions, please don't hesitate to post them under the video. If you like the video, please smash up that like button and subscribe to my videos. That'd be fantastic. I'll talk to you all soon.